I, Ahmed Malik, am a private civilian protected by the Geneva Convention. My Substack, social media posts, and podcasts are my personal experiences, observations, and opinions. This information is for educational purposes only. Although I am a doctor, I am not your doctor, and I am not providing medical or legal advice to you or to the wider public. I am not licensed or registered with the GMC or any other licensing board. The responsibility for the interpretation, due diligence, and use of the information from my Substack and my podcast lies with you, the viewer and/or listener. Please do your research and use your discernment. It is not my intention to harass, intimidate, offend, defame, conspire, blackmail, coerce, or cause anxiety, alarm, or distress to any man or woman, and the information presented here is done so with peaceful and honourable intentions. Enjoy, folks. I'm just going to explain to the listeners, we've just spent quite a long time, 20 minutes plus, like sorting out the connection. Like when you logged on to the platform, the noise that was coming through, the interference was incredible. It was like June. It was really horrible. You couldn't hear me. I couldn't hear you. And then your phone has gone off. I mean, honestly, I wonder if you've been hacked or something because, dude, I've not had this problem with 180 other podcasts I've done. You know, I don't know what they're doing. They don't want this podcast to go ahead. Have you ever had problems like this before?
Censorship is the keystone of tyranny.
Yeah, right. And what is it that you have to say that people maybe don't want to be heard by the masses? That's the question. But can I quickly ask you something? Do you speak Hindi?
No, I do. My fluency level may not be acceptable to Indian natives, but I do speak Hindi, yes.
Is it because it's not your first native Indian language? What's your Indian native?
It's not my mother tongue. It's not my mother tongue. Yeah, it's kind of my third language.
Oh wow! What's your mother tongue?
My mother tongue is Punjabi, but I grew up pretty much speaking English, so I'd say English is my first language.
Oh my goodness! You know I've got Punjabi genes too, my friend. मैं थोड़ा सा उर्दू बोल सकता हूँ, मैं इतना अच्छा नहीं बोल सकता हूँ. You know, जैसे छोटा बच्चा की तरह.
You're speaking Hindi, not Punjabi.
Yeah, that's Hindi. My dad was Punjabi Kashmiri, and my mom was from Dera Ghazi Khan, and she spoke Saraiki. And then basically they used to both speak Hindi, Urdu. And I think a lot of people in the West don't realize how many different languages there are in India. It's literally like the European continent. And the languages aren't just like a little bit different. They're very different. You know, isn't that the case?
They are very different. Yeah.
Very different. Very different.
They are very different, yes.
But Punjabis are kind of famous for being very hot-blooded, very passionate. Would you agree?
To some extent, yeah.
Mm.
More than most other parts of Indians, yeah.
Well, I'm going to say something now, and it makes complete sense, because when I'm looking at you, you look very similar to my dad's younger brother from, early years when my chacha was a lot younger. You look just like him. So I'm looking at you going, this is bizarre. But, later on one day...
My families, we grew up, not we grew up, but both my dad and mom's side of the families, they all were born in pre-partition Pakistan.
Wow.
So we are from that region.
Yeah, well, there's some common genes running through us, buddy. That's all I know.
Right.
Anyway, I remember the first time we spoke. I don't know if you remember the conversation, but one of the things that really struck out was you said, do you know what? The America of today is not America of the independence, even if there was an independent America. You said it was like a corporation. It's America Inc. Dude, a lot of people would really struggle with that. They'd be like, what? I mean, yeah, recently things have gone a bit crazy. America, the founding fathers, War of Independence. Why do you think America is not what most people think it is?
America is a psyop.
You need to expand on that, mate. You can't leave me hanging.
So, I mean, there's a lot to it. This is a multi-hour discussion, but if you look at the founding era of the United States of America, uh, most people say 1776 was the year we got our independence from the British, and it kind of lined up with the Declaration of Independence. But that freedom only lasted 13 years, because once they wrote the so-called United States Constitution, that constitution was a criminal conspiracy and was essentially the architecture and blueprint to re-establish the monarchy by putting all the 13 colonies, which were so-called nation states at the time, under a federal government. So while people are propagandized on how free this country has been since the early days, they don't really understand that essentially a monarchy system was established within 13 years of getting their independence from the British crown. And then since 1871, they established Washington, D.C., and then over the last century plus, everything has been incorporated. So we literally are living in a United States, which is a federal corporation. And all the states have been incorporated, all the counties have been incorporated. So we don't really have representative government anywhere, local, state, or federal levels.
Do you know, have you heard of G. Edward Griffin?
Yeah, I've actually been on a show with him once or twice.
Yeah, he's an amazing man, and he was on my podcast. He said pretty much what you just said. He said, the America that people think existed for a very short period of time, if at all. And when I first heard him say that, I was quite shocked, because even growing up in Scotland, you used to hear about America and the wonderful Constitution, how it was a beacon of liberty and hope for humanity. It was basically freedom. And everybody keeps talking about how amazing the Constitution and the Bill of Rights are, what an amazing document it is, how it enshrines freedom and rights for people. And I think a lot of people find it very difficult to swallow what you've just said.
Yeah, and most people won't not only be able to swallow it, they will run away from, rather than kind of going down the path of, okay, maybe there's something there. Let me investigate further.
So when you say it came back under the control of the monarchy, and then you say it's incorporated, what, the monarchy here in the UK owns America?
Effectively, I mean, the Bank of England was running the show essentially from overseas, right? Alexander Hamilton and a whole bunch of the so-called Federalists, they were essentially speaking to the tune of the Bank of England. So the Bank of England and the agendas of the Crown were being executed when the Philadelphia Convention was happening in 1787. And then if you look at the wording of the Constitution, it has essentially been architected to be able to usher in tyranny. And so whatever is happening today is consistent with the US Constitution with respect to moving towards communism, rather, I should say communitarianism.
So I always struggle with this. You hear about the names Rothschilds, Rockefellers, then you hear the royal family, but then you hear that one is subservient to the other and vice versa. Then you hear about the black nobility and the families. I mean, what the hell? Who's running what? I mean, then if it's a corporation, who's running the corporation? I really struggle with the idea that the royal family is behind. They're the only people. Is it multiple people behind all of this?
They may or may. Is it important? Is it really important to identify all the names and the people?
No, kind of, because if you don't know who your enemy is, how can you deal with them?
So the way I look at it is whoever has control of the printing presses of all the central banks of the world, they are behind this agenda. And then one can go more spiritual and say who's behind them. And so that depends on your spiritual, existence and how you think beyond humanity.
How do you think?
So I'm not going to speak for what it is based on, different people's, but Christians will say it's Satan or dark forces. I'm not a Christian. I say it's artificial intelligence. And behind the artificial intelligence that human beings are building as we speak, there is a darker artificial intelligence that is controlling the agendas, in my opinion. Can I prove it? No. But intuitively, that's what I believe.
Okay, no, I understand that. And is this artificial intelligence recently, or do you think it's been there for a very long time?
The latter.
Oh, for a very long time? Like what, going back hundreds of years?
Potentially, yes. Again, I'm not an expert in these subjects. I'm going by my intuition.
No, I'm interested. But okay, fine. I mean, you know what? I know it's not what we were going to talk about. We're going to talk about. I wanted to talk to you about the UN Agenda 17 and all these goals that they got, and the way they're going to control us. There's a lot that we have in common. I like you. I don't really believe in the political system. I think it's all theater and pantomime. I don't believe in politicians. I don't believe in saviors. A lot of things, people are very uncomfortable hearing. There's a lot we agree, and we're going to dive into that in a second. I like these conversations because they go sometimes just off piste. We're both genetically from the Indian subcontinent. But here we are. You're in a snowy part of America. I was born in Scotland, now living in England. We're children in some respect of the empire. Because the British came over to the Indian subcontinent and changed everything. That's why we're now where we are. It's quite interesting, I think. But what's also interesting is when I dived into the history of India, it was incredible that when the British first came to India so many years ago, at the time of Queen Elizabeth, they were amazed at the wealth of India. They were amazed at the scents, the perfumes, the rich food, the clothes, the silk, the jewelry, the gold, the diamonds, and they were just kind of overwhelmed by it. And the Indian, emperor looked down like, "Who are you peasants? You smelly Brits coming over here?" But within literally 100 years, everything got turned upside down, and India suddenly was under the control of just a very small number of British people from the East India Company, who somehow managed to take over a population of hundreds of millions of people with just literally a few thousand people. It was quite incredible, actually. When you think about it, if you just stand back and don't take any sides, quite an amazing feat, actually, when you think about it. I think a lot of it stems from that era because they were all about corporations, maritime laws, and everything. It was all subterfuge and a lot of deceit and quite, devious shenanigans were going on. I think that's how they took over India, but they've actually carried on with that playbook, and that's how they've taken over the world. Would you agree?
I kind of agree. So my understanding of Indian history is what we were taught, growing up. And given where I am in life, one has to come to the conclusion that most of things that we are taught growing up are all lies.
Yeah.
And I have not done a deep dive. I have not done a deep dive into trying to revisit Indian history from an intellectual platform that I'm on other subjects right now.
No, I get that.
I did do a little bit of a dive into 1947 partition and discovered that Gandhi, Jinnah, and Jawaharlal Nehru was the first Prime Minister of India. They were all British agents, essentially.
100%. Yeah, exactly.
And the whole 1947 so-called, Free India Act or what was it called? India Freedom Act, which gave India freedom, was all a big psyop.
Yeah. Well, there's a great book by Shashi Tharoor called Inglorious Empire: What the British Did to India, which is really good reading if you ever get round to it. It's a very, very enjoyable book because, my listeners will be thinking, what the hell is this guy talking about? But, just growing up in Scotland, from a Pakistani heritage, I was really confused. My dad would say how he was actually born in India. His family was from Indian Kashmir. And my mum's family was originally from Rajasthan in India, but then they moved and then grew up in Pakistan. And, I didn't understand because growing up in Scotland, we knew Indian people and we were really friendly with them and we got on really well with them. But then you would hear about all this rivalry back in the Indian subcontinent and between Pakistan and India. You're like, what's going on there? And it's the same food. It's the same, culture, same weddings, same everything. And
It's the playbook, right? It's
yeah.
they needed that playbook to control that part of the world. So they needed enemies so that people remained distracted. So it's Pakistan versus India, red versus blue, Democrat versus Republican. They need these, opposing forces to have their Hegelian dialectic play out every single time.
This is what I wanted to talk about. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. Everything we see today has been done over and over again. So, this whole trans thing, between straight and trans and getting people angry about it, whether it's Trump or Biden, people getting angry about it, whether it's Brexit or no Brexit, EU, the climate agenda, the right, left, Democrat, Republican, it's always engineered to have, or Palestine, Israel, Hamas, Ukraine, Russia. I feel we're always being manipulated to fight amongst ourselves, to hate amongst ourselves, so that we never really truly understand who the real enemy is. And I think that's what they did with India and Pakistan as well. People who were neighbors,
Not
who
only
lived.
that,
Yep.
not only that. So one thing is it's like it's bred in circuses and theater. So that's one aspect. The
Yeah.
other is while people are fighting against each other, they are implementing their agendas, which is never shown on mainstream TV or alternative TV or newspapers. So tell me who talks about the UN Sustainable Development Goals and the linked to the infrastructure bills that are happening around the world, and that $7 trillion would have been spent on surveillance infrastructure in all the countries by 2030.
No one.
Nobody's going to talk about that. They'll just talk about Ukraine, Russia, and Israel and Palestine, and they'll talk about China versus USA, and they'll talk about all the calamities happening in the world and the climate action. But nobody talks about the fact that there's a new international economic order that is being unrolled, which is going to be linked to a carbon currency with social credits and carbon footprints and medical status and digital ID and so on and so forth. That's where the world is actually moving to, but nobody talks about it because they need everybody asleep.
Yeah, 100%. And I'll give you an example, right? I'm going to quickly show you something. So, I think the people in power have realized that they've lost a bit of control with mainstream media and everybody's gravitating towards alternative media. But now what we've really got is mainstream alternative media. You've got these actors who try and give you the impression that they're anti-establishment, anti-authoritarianism, pro-libertarian, pro-freedom. But it's not about. I think it's my friend Fergus O'Connor Greenwood. He's written this book, 180 Degrees. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but he talks about
Yeah, he
bikini.
sent me the same book, actually. He
Yeah,
sent me the same book. I haven't read it fully. I've been skimming it.
Yeah, I've read half of it. I'm the same as you. It's quite a heavy book. But he talks about bikini opposition. I don't know if you saw that bit, which is it's not about what they reveal, it's about what they don't reveal. It's about what they don't talk about.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so take for example.
What I say is
Yeah.
What I say is untold truths are the hidden lies.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the litmus test of any conversation, any news bulletin. What aren't they saying?
So, 100%. So it's funny, on Twitter the other day, I saw this post. This guy, he's revealed the 50 biggest freedom fighters in the world today. And I went through the list, and honestly, I spat at my coffee. I just started bursting out laughing. I mean, there's one or two people I'd say, yeah, okay, too. But, these are all people who are essentially doing exactly what you said. They're saying a little bit, but they're concealing a lot. So let's talk about what everyone else is not talking about. We're going to talk about this. Now, I know you're using your phone and you're going to struggle to see this a bit, but this is the global goals, the 17 global goals, the UN Agenda 17, right? Now, it's I don't know if you can see the screen, Aman, but you know what? Really nice, bright
I can. It's
colors.
quite tiny on my phone.
Yeah, but it's really pretty. It's really pretty. You got these nice, pretty rainbow colors, nice little logos and everything. It's all very pretty. You got lovely words. Like it starts off with no poverty, and you got a nice little family there, right? No poverty. Zero hunger. Good health and well-being. Quality education. Gender equality. Clean water sanitation. Affordable and clean energy. Decent work and economic growth. Industry, innovation, and infrastructure. Number 10, reduced inequalities. Number 11, sustainable cities and communities. 12, responsible consumption and production. 13, climate action. 14, life below water. 15, life on land. 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. 17, partnership for the goals. Aman, what's your problem, man? This all sounds wonderful.
They are wonderful, but once people spend enough time reading papers in the UN websites and the World Economic Forum websites and their public-private partnership cronies and NGOs, one will realize very quickly that there is inversion in language. So everything is inverted. So if you go to Sustainable Development Goal number 1, which says no poverty, it's really about making everybody poor and bringing the first world down to the level of the third world countries. When they talk about zero hunger, it's about controlling the food supply, getting rid of natural agriculture and moving to synthetic meats and getting rid of, natural proteins such as beef and pork and chickens and so on and so forth. When they talk about good health and well-being, it's about the WHO controlling, viruses and vaccinations and making sure everyone's taking their jabs and boosters for the rest of their lives.
And it's sick.
And it goes on and on.
Let's carry on.
Good education or whatever that one is.
Yeah, quality education.
It's all about dumbing down the population through UNESCO programs, just that they have done so far. At least in America, I've seen the new generations of kids, they don't know how to think critically even one iota.
What about gender equality?
They are told what to think. They don't know how to think.
You're right. And universities are just indoctrination. Schools are indoctrinations, 100%. 5, gender equality.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
Well, it's about transgender and the transhuman agenda. It's about merging man and woman into a unisex.
Number 6, clean water and sanitation.
It's about controlling it's about going from sewer to tap. So they want to take water from the sewer, recycle it, clean it up, recycle it, and give it to you as drinking water.
Do you know, honestly, the water here is absolutely disgusting. It's full of chemicals, pesticides, insecticides, hormones, plastics, heavy metals.
So in the name of sustainability and conservation, they want to use every drop of water and feed it back to you.
Yeah, no thanks. I distill all my water. And you know what's amazing, Aman? At the end of the distillation process, you've got this crud at the bottom of the pan, and it stinks to high heaven. And you just think, it's not even a lot of water. It's like 4 or 5 liters of water. And after it's been boiled off and you've got your distilled water, you've got this muck, this slime. And you just think, wow, I would have drunk that garbage. That would have been it's disgusting.
It is, yeah.
And they talk about
I'm fortunate not to live in a
Sorry, carry on.
I'm fortunate not to live in a municipality, and I have my own well for now. So it's good to have one's own well.
Yeah, I've got a well in my garden. It's just not functioning. I need to clean it up and have it serviced. I just don't have the money to do that. I live in a property that's 350 years old. It's a small cottage. It's very old. So yeah, I need to sort that out. But another push that they're doing, Aman, I don't know if you know about this, is the fluoride. They're really trying to push fluoride, and fluoride is a neurotoxin. It's dangerous. It's not healthy to man or
Yeah, they've
animal.
had fluoride in America in most cities. I know Montana, where I live, the state of Montana, except in the city of Bozeman, fluoride is not supposedly allowed in municipal water.
Okay, dude. Well, I've just finished watching the series Yellowstone. I really enjoyed it. I'm very jealous. I wish I was up in Montana. It looks amazing. All right, let's go on with this list. So, 7, affordable and clean energy. What does that mean? What does that really mean?
Essentially, it's all about rationing energy. They
Why would
want to ration energy, food, and water across the world
Why?
because they can control you. It's like the favelas in Brazil, right? The the mafia in Rio de Janeiro, they give them water, they give them schools, and they give them energy, and they are beholden to the mafia. It's as simple as that. If I take away essentials from you and then give you back the essentials in limited amounts, you will touch my feet for giving
Yeah,
you back something after having taken it away. That's what the agenda is.
bloody hell. And I'm not surprised about the energy thing. You know, here in the UK, I don't know what it's like in the US. I'm old enough to have witnessed. I mean, no one has built any power stations. We've not built anything, any new capacity. Our population is rising. The years have gone by, and I wonder why the hell has no one built any new power stations? Like, it's a recipe for disaster. I mean, people could say, "Oh, it's incompetence." Not at this level. I mean, this is just ridiculous. And then what's happened with the Nord Stream pipeline, the blowing up of that, and the energy, so-called energy rationing. But you know what's really funny, Aman? Um, the prices of energy has gone up through the roof. Like, we've had to turn down our thermostat. We've all had to wear extra layers and jumpers. I keep telling all the kids, nope, we can't turn the heating up because we can't afford it. But the energy companies are making record profits. And
Yeah, but it's not really about profits. It has nothing to do with profits. It's about incrementally taking away essential needs from the majority of the people or the large majority of the people and making things so bad that government will then come to you uh, as a rescuer. We'll come to the rescue, and if you take on a digital ID and if you sign on to the sustainability agenda, and now that you have a smart meter and all your devices in your house can communicate with the smart meter, which then communicates your usage of smart appliances to your electric company, your carbon credits then are computed by the electric company for your new digital currency. So the smart meter collecting data on you is far more valuable to the electric company than them making money off your expensive electricity.
okay, all right. Number 8, decent work and economic growth. I mean, I kind of figured this out now, how this is going to play out, but I want to hear it from you rather than.
Yeah, it's the same thing, right? They're basically destroying the economy, and they're saying we are going to give you decent work, essentially.
But
And they're changing the whole economy into a social impact investing system.
what does that mean?
So, are you familiar with all the homelessness that's been happening in American cities over the last 15 years or so?
Yeah.
And expanding literally. So why? So the question to ask is, why is it happening? It's not because housing is getting too expensive. That's not the real reason. It's being done by design. And the whole having homelessness in tents in downtowns of cities and all, it's all again pushing the Hegelian dialectic where they're saying, oh, look, the economy is bad or people are getting priced out because of greedy capitalists. And now we have people who can't afford homes. So we have so much homelessness in America. And obviously, the homelessness and the drug addiction on the streets is not something most people like. So the problem reaction is everyone is on Twitter and other social media complaining about local governments and their policies, their socialist policies about how bad it is and how horrible things are getting. Guess what the predetermined solution will be? Social impact investing. And that's already started in many of the American cities, including San Francisco and LA, where social impact investing is you are a billionaire philanthropist or whatever, you're going to come and say, hey, San Francisco City, I'm going to help. I'll put $5 million for a drug addiction program or a, you know, temporary homeless shelter program, and we are going to do impact investing. So, but I need real time monitoring of everybody and the program. So I'm going to put up cameras and sensors and LED smart lights all over the city and inside these shelters so that I can monitor the people in real time. And so it's becoming a combination of a 24/7 data collection surveillance system for the new digital currency and the new international economic order, while pretending to be making a social impact to improve the lives of the downtrodden homeless people that needed affordable housing. So it's all one big plan.
I keep hearing this Hegelian dialect and problem, reaction, solution, and you almost feel like is everything we're seeing around us just deliberately being engineered? Are we just constantly being manipulated?
Completely.
Yeah, okay.
Completely.
Okay,
in fact,
yeah.
One should go and read up on a concept of cybernetics. There was an MIT professor in the 1950s who came up with the word cybernetics. And it's a form of warfare by manipulating the minds of human beings combined with machines with a feedback loop. So I'm not going to go into the details, but go and study up cybernetics. I've made a couple of posts, a pinned post on my Facebook if people want to go and study about that. And so, and there's also publications with a phrase called human computation, where humanity is computationally being manipulated in swarms. It's also called swarm programming. So these are kind of topics of research that people should look up, as in how we as large populations across the world have been getting programmed, not only from the early days of the newspaper, then television, but now with the internet and social media, the swarm programming is happening massively. Like, while we think we are linearly intelligent and we read something, and therefore when we read something, this must be happening, no. Our minds are being manipulated with a feedback loop every time we interact with the machine. And I'd say that since the internet and our personal computer came to our homes in the late 90s and early 2000s, depending on where you were in the world, we have become cyborgs, which is cybernetic organisms. And we are being continuously manipulated all the time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we are. So basically, if you were in my studio here, you'd see I've got pictures on the wall by a very famous British artist called Bob Moran, who does fantastic work. And it's essentially the TV is just a propaganda brainwashing tool. Everything that comes out of the TV, all the news, all the music, all the Netflix, I always find I'm able to see through the code. You know, like I feel like I'm in Matrix, and you know where Keanu Reeves can see the source code. I can almost see the source code, and I can detect the bullshit and the propaganda they're trying. I'm like, oh, for God's sake, I just want, a half an hour of a program without having to be trying to be brainwashed by something. But it's everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm even reading a sci-fi book right now. It's a guy called Peter Hamilton, and he's a British sci-fi author, and I used to read his stuff like years ago. And recently my brother-in-law went, oh, he came out with some new books. You should check them out. And I haven't read his books for 10 years plus, right? Marriage, children came into I picked up the book. I went, I'm going to get this book. I'm going to read this new book. Dude, you're not going to believe it. Humanity has now got a subgroup of people called utopials. Guess what they've done? They've genetically engineered themselves so that for 6 months they're male and for 6 months they're female. They're unisex, basically. And the Earth is run by a global corporation. And any dissidents are locked up and sent to another planet in a prison planet. And it's all cheered on. And it's like, yeah, of course, we don't want these nasty, pesky terrorists. And what are the terrorists? The terrorists are basically anyone who disagrees with the corporation. It's not like they're really bad people. They're literally just people who are protesting against the corporation. They're labeled terrorists and they get extradited without any judicial process. And they go, yeah, this is nice and clean. We don't kill them. We just dump them on this planet where they can just be on their own. A miserable planet with nothing but desert. And it just goes on. And I'm reading this sci-fi book and thinking, what is this? Is this like pre-programming BS? It's like, I just want none of this. But everywhere I look, I just see propaganda and then also the news and the conflicts. I feel like is constantly trying to whip us up. Like, so recently the whole Gaza, Palestine. I was telling everybody I'm on Team Humanity. I'm not picking a side. I'm not on Hamas and I'm definitely not on Israel. I'm Team Humanity. But people get whipped up and people want to pick a side. And it's like, I got into...
I think they do that because they haven't yet understood that they are being gamed. Once you start understanding that every event in the world, which is a major event, doesn't happen organically. They are all engineered, and they are engineered for multiple reasons, not just for one or two reasons. So multiple agendas are at play. And like, for instance, the whole Israel and Palestine issue that's been happening for the last few months, one of the most important phrases is human rights. And people need to understand what are human rights. Human rights is a United Nations, trigger phrase across the world. So they can use human rights when people are being slaughtered. They can use human rights when so-called people in Africa and India are starving. They can use human rights for anything. And I ask myself the question that if my individual rights are protected, why do I need human rights? So there must be an agenda behind the phrase human rights.
Right.
Like, I don't need human rights if my individual rights are protected within a system. But human rights is all about invoking and activating United Nations law, which will necessarily involve a digital identification. It's about getting a digital ID, and then for the safety and security for those humans whose rights were being violated, we need to track and trace them 24/7. So people need to understand what the agendas behind the propaganda and narratives are.
Talking about digital ID, I'm 48, and I can tell you so many times over the last few decades, I've seen different governments try and bring in a digital ID. It's like they're desperate. I'm sure Blair tried to get it in. I'm sure Cameron tried to get it in. And every single time they try and bring it in, it gets rejected because it's anti-freedom. It's just wrong. But it's like, why don't they just accept, look, people have voted, they don't want digital ID, but they keep coming back. It comes back and as another reincarnation. Every 4 or 5 years, they try and get it in, desperate to get it in. And I definitely think that's part of what they want. The whole COVID passport was that digital ID, the QR code.
It was a dress rehearsal for the digital ID.
Yeah. I did a post on my Instagram at the time, 2-3 years ago, where I showed someone who'd been to Auschwitz and had the tattoo on their arm, and another Jewish person showing their papers to the Nazis, and then I showed a young group of kids showing their QR code on the phone to get into a venue. And I was like, can't you see the parallels? Can't you see what's happening? Instead of having a tattoo on our arms, we're getting that digital ID thrust upon us, and it will be, show me your papers. Show me your papers. Everywhere we go, show me your papers. And it's like, I don't think enough people have clocked on to that,
No. And even when they do, they don't internalize it enough to understand the long-term implications.
Okay. Can I quickly just say about the whole gaming and the whole every big major thing we see is engineered? This suggests a level of sophisticated coordination and planning. Like, this can't just happen organically. Where the hell does this all happen?
Certainly not.
Where does this happen? Is it in intelligence units? Is it in Tavistock, the Enslon unit? This Washington,
I think it's happening in multiple places, right? It's essentially, what's the shiny object which propels people to exert their minds and souls to come up with creative stuff? And that shiny object is money. So whether you go to the foundations that are forming initial blueprints, or you go to the companies like McKinsey, Deloitte, Arthur Andersen, Accenture, and those kinds of companies, which are consulting companies, which actually come up with clever ideas and execution pathways for executives in Fortune 500 companies and beyond. Or it could be NGOs that are paid really well. So when you pay people well and give them a basic direction, they come up with the most creative ways to do this.
All right.
So there are forces that are giving the general direction, but the execution is being done. We all are building our own digital prison.
Yeah, I've said that.
Whether it's the technocrats from Silicon Valley or the bankers from New York, or the advertising companies in Chicago and New York, or the manufacturing companies in China, whatever. Pick your industry. We are all building our own digital prison. Happily so, for the most part. Many of us are getting rich in the process. Some of us are not. But we are all marching to our own death camps. It's the ultimate psyop.
Well, that's fracking depressing. All right, let's carry on with this agenda. Reduced inequalities. Well, that's obvious. There's going to be massive inequalities. I look at what's happening as neo-serfdom. And we're going to have this elite class that living with everything, eating steak, and the rest of us are living in these favelas, like you described, in ghettos, 15-minute cities.
Again, reduced inequality is about increased inequality. That's what it is. It's, again, inversion in language, where everybody is going to be equal at a very low level,
Yeah,
and then, of course, they're using diversity, equity, and inclusivity and all that stuff as variables for the ESG scoring in the new financial system.
Yeah, I'm a victim of that. So I got referred to my licensing board because apparently I'm transphobic. They eventually cleared it. Then another hospital sacked me over a minor technicality and said, you didn't inform us of this investigation. And I said, well, I got no written evidence that I was referred. I never got contacted by the licensing board. And anyway, the referral was bogus. It was garbage. It was kicked out. So let me off. And the hospital was like, no. So another hospital used this excuse to get rid of me. And then a third hospital said, oh, you had a guest on your podcast who was critical of Israel. We think that's anti-Semitic of you, and we're going to investigate you. So not me, Aman. I never said anything. And my guest actually didn't say anything anti-Semitic either. But they used the excuse to suspend me. And after 4 months of no income, they then wrote to me and said, oh, we've done an investigation and we've looked at all your podcasts and you're not anti-Semitic and you've not said anything wrong. The punishment is a process. I've come up against this wall of DIE and ESG, and I've been royally screwed. My 25-year surgical career is over. And, you talk about that shiny thing called money. It's this asymmetrical warfare because the opposition mainstream alternative media, they're funded with millions and billions, and they got all the weapons with them. And then there's little old people like me who are, asking people, can you buy me a coffee? Can you subscribe £5 a month, please? What hope have
Yeah.
we got? I mean, they've got all the guns and tanks, and I've got like a little
Yeah,
toothpick to
but
fight back.
it's not about the guns and tanks is not the issue.
No,
If
no, I
that
meant,
was the issue,
I'm talking about
yeah.
an analogy. I'm talking about when it comes to like money, they've got like guns and tanks, and I've got like a toothpick that I'm fighting against them with. There's not.
No, actually, we are fighting against. We are fighting the language is the battlefield.
Yeah,
One needs to understand language is the battlefield, and their weapon is lies and control of narrative. Our weapon is truth. The only way we can beat them and their lies is if we are closer to the ground truth. And until a large swath of humanity is closer to the ground truth, we won't beat them, because they, with their narratives and their lies and their mechanisms of falsehoods, they will manipulate humanity till the end.
that was beautifully put, and I couldn't agree more. That's what my podcast is called, Doc Malik Honest Health, and it's the pursuit of truth. I did a Substack about all the greatest freedom fighters that I think exist in the world today. As a counter to that stupid one that I showed you on Twitter, and it's on my Substack. By the way, you're on that list, FYI. And I said, the what makes all these people, there's quite a lot on my list. By the way, there's over 100 or 150. But I'll read out what I said. Here we go. I'll read it out. It came to my attention that someone compiled a list of his top 50 biggest freedom fighters in the world today. I have to admit, when I saw who was on the list and who wasn't, I spat out my coffee and laughed hysterically. I'm just so relieved that I am not on that list. Jeez Louise. Anyway, it got me thinking who I would put on my list of freedom fighters. Not the biggest freedom fighters, just freedom fighters. Initially, I was like, oh my goodness, this is going to be a short list. But to my surprise, as I started to type out names, the list got bigger and bigger. Most of the people I know personally who I've had on my podcast or listened to on other podcasts or are my friends are people I have seen online and think, yeah, they seem to be good eggs. It's quite a big list, which gives me hope. These are just the people that I know of. There must be so many more. All I know is that the people that get paraded before us aren't necessarily the good ones. I'm not saying they're all bad, but it's often the ones you haven't heard about or who have been cancelled, censored, investigated, sacked, and had their careers destroyed who are actually the good ones. Now, I'm not saying this list is exhaustive. Heck no. It's just the names that came to my head as I sipped my coffee this morning. If you're not on my list and think you should be, put it down in the comments. If you think someone else should be on the list, put it in the comments. People on this list have stood up for the truth in some shape or form. They have principles, integrity, and morals. They have suffered or sacrificed to do the right thing. They are ultimately driven by a cause that they believe in, most often seeking the truth. And Aman, you are on that list. So yeah, it's about the truth, buddy. Right, should we carry on? What about sustainable cities and communities? What's the plan there? What's their agenda there? I can't hear you anymore.
City in the name of conservation and efficiency. That's my guess would be. I have my little chart and I don't have it in front of me because now my computer is shut.
Yeah.
But it's really about putting people in smart cities and then tracking them, tracing them, optimizing their movements. So having 5G infrastructure in a smart city environment with smart LED lights where everything is being like all your devices, your movements are being sensed for the Internet of Things. And then the next generation is going to be cognitive cities, which is going to sit atop 6G networks, where the city and AI and the algorithms will already know your next move before you make your next move. So there's a lot of dark agendas to this smart city infrastructure and the plans that are happening.
Okay, hold on. Let's go back a bit. So you talked about smart LED lights. Now, are we talking about street lights? I mean, because I don't understand
The
street
street
lights
lights,
nowadays.
yeah, I'd say almost all of the LED lights that have been installed in the last 4 years across the world, they are smart. They are smart LED lights on smart poles. And all these LED lights, basically, they are array LED lights. They are wireless computers, essentially, which wirelessly communicate with the adjacent LED lights 20, 30 yards away. So whenever you're walking in a town or a street, or you're driving on a freeway with these LED lights, they are taking wireless data through Wi-Fi or Zigbee or other wireless communication protocols. So these lights know exactly where you are, where your car is, and who you are with, given how many devices in your car. So basically, we are being blanketed with a surveillance architecture, and cameras are not the only surveillance device that people think that, oh, cameras, they're looking at us. No, the LED lights are everywhere. And the ratio of LED lights to cameras is probably 50 is to 1 or 100 is to 1.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
these LED lights then communicate wirelessly to 5G towers or through fiber optic on the cable, and they are also going to be part of the infrastructure for self-driving cars on freeways, and they're installing smart cables under freeways across the world. And I mean, there's a lot to it. I need to make a more detailed presentation on all this stuff.
So, I mean, would one of the best things do is put your phone in some kind of like, wallet, some kind of Faraday wallet or something like that, so that or turn off your Wi-Fi so that whenever you're going around, that people don't know where you are? Is that the best thing to do?
That's a good start. But if you have a modern automobile, chances are that automobile is connected to the internet. Like in the US, all automobiles since 2003 have some sort of internet connection. So they know where your car is.
Even as far back as 2003?
2003, yeah.
Wow, that's 21 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man,
And
oh,
they can
man.
control
Oh.
most of the subsystems. They can control most of the subsystems in your car. So your brakes can be activated without your will. Your steering wheel can be turned to the left and thrown off the cliff at will by AI.
Some people might think
Or
you're
by
just...
an operative sitting, that can control your car.
Okay. Some people might say that's a bit far-fetched, but
No, the specs are out there. I mean, I've been working in tech for a while, so I know exactly the roadmaps of all the companies, not all the companies, but many of the automotive manufacturers.
oh, wow. All right. What about number 12, responsible consumption and production? Basically, they want us to eat less, be colder,
Yeah,
use less energy, and suffer.
exactly. Yeah.
Oh, fucking hate these guys. Climate action. To me, I mean, I just did a podcast with Tom Nelson. The climate, the movie. It's bullshit. It's a scam, like so many other scams. It's just a weapon. It's a tool. It's an excuse to enable all of these other things we've talked about, because everything is in the name
Yeah.
of climate change. Am I right?
Right. So climate action is it the one with the eye in the middle?
Yes, it is.
So so climate action. That one is the eye represents artificial intelligence and the all-seeing eye, which means we need to track and see everything and every activity of all humanity and all nature all the time. So that's about the infrastructure going up and tracking everything all the time, and doing natural asset companies and taking pictures of trees from satellites, assigning digital IDs to everything, and being able to, put a value and extract value from nature and humanity.
I've
That's what
heard
it
of this.
is.
Yeah, I've heard of this. It's really funny you should say that eye thing. I didn't even think of that. And now that I've zoomed in to the actual ball, it's not even a map of the Earth. That's not even Earth. Like that's not any continent that I can recognize. I mean, how hard is it to make a ball
Yeah.
and a little Earth? That's not even the planet
Yeah.
Earth. That's just like that is literally like you said an eye. Interesting. Wow. I didn't even notice that. What about life below water? What the hell is that about?
They are putting, so people should also research the Internet of Underwater Things. So they want to control all of sea life. They're going to ban fishing completely at some point in time in the name of conservation and many other things. And life below water will also be controlled. They're going to have sensors all under the ocean, the floors of the ocean, and they're going to have a way to monetize and bet on how fish are dying or swimming or behaving and so on and so forth. So it's about controlling, taking full control of everything in the seas.
Wow. And what about life on land?
Life on land is about taking control of everything on land, which means you won't be able to eat beef. We are going to track and trace every human as well as every animal. We are going to take care of, in the name of conservation and biodiversity, we are going to cut off access of land to all humans.
And
And we are
also
going to be sitting in their cubicles in smart cities. And that's what it's all about.
there's another one as well, Aman. Biosecurity. Because of potential biological threats, we need to tag everything. So one of the things that's recently come through in the UK is they've said if you keep chickens, even one, you need to register it. You need to register it with us.
Register it,
because if there's a bird flu or whatever, we might have to come around and kill your chicken. We might have to lock it up.
Exactly.
They don't want you to be independent and have your own food source or be able to provide for yourself. It's
So the key here is, why would people comply?
That's a good point. Why?
So we know what they are trying to do. I think the bigger question for me is, if we can educate the people, after educating them, why would they want to comply?
They wouldn't.
They will. They will.
Even after we educate them. I mean, the whole point of my podcast is to educate people and wake them up.
Most people have been neutralized or neutered. Most people in this world, especially the Western countries, have been neutered.
I agree.
Like they will say, "Oh, I don't want to go to jail, so let me just go and register my chicken."
Yeah. I only took the jab so I could go on holiday. I'm not going to take a jab again. Yeah, you will.
Yeah, I was told by a friend in San Francisco saying, I want to be free to be able to fly to Puerto Rico. I'm not going to sit here without taking the jab so that I can't fly. I need my freedom. So I took the jab. Do you see the irony?
Yes. Oh my God. That is just hilarious. Recently I met a colleague of mine, an orthopedic surgeon. He was like, dude, what the hell's happening with you? It's insane. It's crazy. And I said, dude, are you taking any more of these jabs? Are you taking any more of these shots? He goes, no. And, he used to tell me all the time, what's wrong with you? Just take them. There's nothing wrong. We need to get out of the pandemic. I had COVID. It was terrible. And I said to him, well, if you had COVID, why do you need these jabs? He couldn't respond. He couldn't answer me. Do you know, as a medical student, I never once was taught anything about vaccines. Do you know, like if you speak to any doctor and say, look, do you know anything? What's in a vaccine? Tell me about the science of a vaccine. They don't know anything. Doctors are so dumbed down. It's unbelievable. Most people put doctors on a pedestal, and you know what it's like in the Indian culture. Oh, mera beta doctor hai. That means my son is a doctor. Your daughter should marry my son.
That's the propaganda that was left behind. and everybody was told that the medical profession is the loftiest one,
But it's a lie.
and
It's a
people
lie.
bought into it.
It's such a lie.
Yeah.
It's such a lie. If people genuinely knew how dumb we were and how brainwashed we are, and that we're just automatons, little robots that do as we're told. Yes, yes. You would never
Right.
respect a doctor. You'd run a mile from a doctor. So anyway, I was saying to him, well, you're going to have any more of these shots? He went, no. I'm definitely not having any more of these shots. Ahmed, I only had the shots because, I've got a mortgage, I've got a daughter, and, I need to look after myself. I'm not in a position where I couldn't stop working, but I'm not going to have any more of these. And I said, do you still have a daughter? He goes, yes. I said, do you still have a mortgage? Yes. And you still like your holidays? Yes. You still like getting your flash clothes? Yes. I said, have you got any other source of income? No. I said, so why will you not take the jab next time? What's changed? And then he went quiet. I went, so you can say all you like, you're not going to have any more shots. But the truth is, when they come and put the pressure on you, you'll roll up your sleeve. And you know what? He just looked down at the floor. He didn't even answer. And this guy is big. He's 6'2". He's big, tall, typical orthopedic surgeon. And his body posture was that of a timid mouse. This lion suddenly became a timid mouse, and he just went quiet.
Right.
So I think you're right. I think a lot of people who will just roll over. And I think it is a problem in the West. And I think that's why they're trying to destroy the West. Because that would have had some resistance, freedom, liberties, things we've taken for granted. But now it's just not here anymore.
Yeah, like I in fact, it was yesterday or day before yesterday, I saw you on Courtney Turner's podcast.
Oh.
I saw the whole podcast just last night, or was it 2 nights ago? I'm not sure. And I enjoyed it. And I noticed you said that everyone's looking to America to, make a resistance and fight back. And I was shaking my head. Nope, America is not going to fight back. There's no effing way America is fighting back, because I've been in Montana now for like 4 months shy of 4 years. I have personally spoken to over 2,000 people in live meetings. There's almost no fight here. People have been woken up. There is, and Montana is supposed to be one of the most, if not the most, freedom-loving state. Everyone's quite macho with their, average of 10 to 20 guns per household.
Yeah.
But there's no fight in the people here.
Why?
As I said, I think Americans have been neutered through the violence in television, movies, video games, and pornography for the last 30 plus years.
Do you know, Aman, I say this, I say, where's the fire in the belly of people? Where are the men? Where are the protective, strong
and I'm
men?
not saying everyone, but I'm saying 95% of the people, if not more.
I do understand.
I mean, the people standing by my side when I do meetings and I do, talks, the people standing by my side are primarily women in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Yes. Yeah, I've noticed that as well. I mean, that's not to say that there aren't some men. There are some incredible men that I know, but it's very far and few between.
Very few, yes, there are, but there are very, very few.
Yeah, and as a man, I'm so disappointed. I look at my fellow men and I go, "Where the fuck are you? Where are you defending your wives and your children and your communities?" And you know what they're busy doing, Aman? They're busy vaping their cherry vape and watching videos of young kids dancing on TikTok. What the frack, man? Just a few decades ago, men were fighting abroad and defending their country. I mean, those wars were all fake, but you know what I mean. But now, it's just awful. Anyway, let's move on. Because I know your time is precious. It's late where you are. I'm very grateful for you doing this. It's like midnight where you are, and you're doing this.
No, it's past 1 a.m.
Oh
So
shit! Oh shit!
it's
Okay, I better move
possible. We
on.
can do a part 2 in a few weeks if you want.
No, I only got another 10, 15 minutes and I'm done. Right. Peace, justice, and strong institutions. I mean, there is a bit of truth in that. They want these strong institutions that will come down and totally neuter us. There will be no peace. There will be no justice. Um, the law is an ass and it's there to extract money from you, to drain you. And it's not there to support you or
Yeah,
defend
it's
you.
more than that. It's more than that. One should go up and look at resilient cities. So I'm not going to go into the details. People should look at resilient cities, and then they are also working through many corporations and foundations on AI governments. So governments are going to be replaced by artificial intelligence. There are going to be no governments left in most parts of the world. And they are building digital bill of rights. They're building digital constitutions. And I would recommend people go and look at the Council of Inclusive Capitalism, which was an offshoot of the League of Nations. Look at all the board directors there and which companies they work for,
What
and look
was
at
it
all
called
the
again?
agendas and white
What,
papers.
what was the
The
last one
Council
called?
of Inclusive Capitalism. And I think they are registered in Rome or in the Vatican address. I'm not sure.
And isn't this just simply a way of corporations owning and running everything?
Pretty
Isn't
much,
that
yeah. And not just
are we,
corporations. It
we're talking
is
about this Council for
it is the
Inclusive Capitalism?
technology developed by corporations. Ultimately, it's the technology developed by corporations, because this way humans won't have recourse, right? Because you'll be at the mercy of AI. Like if you are given a ticket today, you can go to a judge in court saying, hey, there was injustice. You can talk to a human being. And while most of the time you won't win, at least you're talking to a human being and you have a place to make a case.
Right. Can I just say something? I don't know any of these names except for one guy, Mark Carney. He used to be the UK Bank of England governor. Steering committee. Co-chairs. All right, fine. Oh, Lynn Forrester de Rothschild, of course. Bloody hell.
There you go.
There's a guy that's got a name very similar to you, Ambani. Aman.
Well,
All right.
Ambani is I think he's the richest trillionaire in India.
Really?
He's the Reliance Industries, right? So it's like the largest
Do you know India?
multi-corporation family.
I hope you don't take offense. One of the things I don't like about India, and I wonder whether they use the Indian model for the rest of humanity, is the caste system. I do not like the idea of this priestly superior class, then the business mercantile, and then this untouchable. And it's ingrained within society. It's so wrong. And it's funny how no one really talks about it. And I feel like that's what they want around the whole world. You have this ruling elite. You've got some people in the middle who are just doing the menial jobs, and then you got the people right at the bottom.
It's the bourgeois and the proletariat, right? It's not very different from what there was.
Yes.
It's the people who control. Then you have the bourgeois, who are the implementers, the manager, and the executive class, and then you have the proletariat, and that's what's going to be.
All right. Okay. So last one.
And
partnership.
Then, as AI gets more sophisticated and the technology gets more sophisticated to perform what it needs to perform, the bourgeois will become thinner and thinner and thinner, and they'll be pushed down to the proletariat.
Well, it's already happening. The middle class has just shrunk and shrunk in front of my eyes. My dad was a working class immigrant.
But don't equate bourgeois with middle class.
Yes.
Equate bourgeois. I'm talking about the bourgeois will be the people running the orders of the
executing
people running
things.
the show, Yeah.
They'll
be given a good lifestyle and they'll do what they are told, to get their wine and whiskey every night and their steak and dinner.
So we're talking about, the politicians, the media people, the celebrities. They're going to get crushed as well.
Everybody's going to crash. Even the billionaires will ultimately get crushed once the whole system achieves a steady state. You must realize that whenever there's a control system of human beings controlling another human being, the noose is on both ends.
Yes.
The noose around the neck is at both ends, both the master and the slave.
I think that's really true. I've thought about this in multiple cases, like like torturing and slavery. It does affect both sides. So take, for example, if you torture someone, if you think that torturer will go home and sleep well and not have nightmares and not be traumatized, unless they're a real true psychopath, most humans will be damaged. And
It's more than that. I am torturing at the orders of another master. So I have a noose around my neck. For if I don't torture, then that noose goes shut. So it's more than just about my morality and my ability to sleep at night.
Yep.
And the person who's giving the orders, they have a noose around their neck, because if the orders are not followed, their power gets cut off.
And their children might suffer, and their wife and their husband.
Exactly, yeah. So everybody's got a noose. Whenever you are in a power situation, whether you are the one on the the powerful side or the weaker side, everyone's got a noose around their neck.
Okay, last one. 17, partnerships for the goals. What the frack does that mean? Who's partnering?
I suspect that is basically the public-private partnerships. It's basically the public-private partnerships, which is the private corporations with the most power, and the people running these things, they are masquerading as public-private partnership. Basically, they're controlling all the governments, who are then going to be told they're going to be told what to do, and the people will think that their governments are raping them, rather than the fact that the people who control the governments that are raping them.
Exactly. Aman, I don't know about you, but I think we're on the same page here. I keep telling my listeners, don't look for saviors. It's very tempting. Even me, don't say, "Oh, Doc Malik's amazing. I love Doc Malik," and no. I might be wrong. I am often wrong. I often get things wrong. Don't look for your Joe Rogans, your Russell Brands, your RFK Juniors, your Donald Trumps to save you. We need to save ourselves ultimately. We cannot be relying on other people. I think democracy, this whole is an illusion. I actually don't even believe in democracy. I'll tell you why. I don't want the majority to tell me what to do. I just want to be left alone. I don't want people to vote and say, "Oh, we're the majority and we're telling you to do this." No, I want to be left alone. Would you agree that there are no saviors?
Democracy is the tyranny of the majority, and I've never agreed with democracy. And the media has been so clever talking about, our democracy is in danger. Like, really? Which means they are subliminally coaching and programming everybody that democracy is a good thing.
Yes.
Rather than saying democracy is the tyranny of the majority, and it should never be part of a system of government.
100%.
But yeah, talking of saviors, I mean, I always recommend, think locally, know the kinds of people you want to live around and be with, and then locally figure out what to do in order to live the life you want to lead. Because I can't tell you, Doc, what sort of a life you should want to lead in England. I don't know you well enough. I don't know the kinds of people you're around. So I have no way to gauge or recommend the kind of life you should lead and what you should do. And a lot of people talk about, give me solutions. I can give you a solution if I knew who you were and I knew your level of liberty, uh, on a scale of 0 to 10, but I don't. Because many people who love freedom, they also love paying taxes. They also love listening to the news, and they love to vote for Donald Trump. And I don't equate that with freedom.
I don't equate any of those with freedom either. But the problem is here, if you
Yeah.
don't pay your tax, you go to jail. And it's very difficult, they've basically, the government has the monopoly on violence.
So let's say 40% of people in London stop paying their taxes. Are they going to put 40% of the Londoners in jail?
100% I agree with you. But do you know what the problem is? No one steps up. Aman, there's 280,000 doctors registered in the UK. How many have stood up and said, no, this is wrong? I can tell you a handful. I have 280,000. And that's why when the few that stand up like me, you get decapitated. And if basically, even just 1,000 or 2,000 doctors stood up, not even 1%, just 1,000 doctors out of 280,000, all marched and said, no, this is wrong, and blanketed the social media and went on the news and blah, blah, blah. Do you know what? It would have made such a difference. But the reality is, I know so many doctors who come to me privately and message me and see me and go, oh, wow, I love what you're doing. You're amazing. And I go, what are you doing? Oh, I'm not in a position to lose it all. And I go, well, I am. With my 3 young kids and my mortgage, my wife, I'm in a position to lose it all. Like, why is it any different for me?
No,
And they go quiet.
so I think people don't realize. So if you, let's say you told your doctor friend that in 5 to 10 years, you won't have a job as a doctor because everything is moving to telemedicine, and your doctor will
AI.
be some variation of artificial intelligence. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, they'll just say
It's
I'm
like I
crazy.
was having a conversation. I was having a conversation with a school teacher in Bozeman, and they are implementing security initiatives all over Montana, which means they're going from regular locks to automated locks. And I said the next step is going to be facial recognition based locking systems and door openings in schools. And you should also know that they are overworking you teachers so that there's enough complaints where they will start having courses by artificial intelligence and teachers online. The goal is that all teachers will be redundant in a few years because all courses will be taught to kids when they're sitting in their homes on VR glasses with AI. So 100% of teachers are going to be redundant, or let's say 99%, except for the elite universities of Harvard and Stanford, maybe, but that's about it. 99% of lawyers are going to lose their jobs and be redundant in a few years. And 99% of doctors will be redundant in a few years.
So when I hear all this, I think, don't the people that at the top realize that this will be the death of humanity? There will be no innovation. There will be no creativity. The beauty of humanity comes from our uniqueness and our individualism, and that's how you get your Mozarts, that's how you get your Einsteins, that's how you get your artists and your chefs. If you destroy all of this, you will have stagnation. There will be no progress of humanity.
I think the
Just
agenda is to destroy the human.
1 second, Aman.
Yeah.
And then what will happen is you will have stagnation and you will have decay. And the people at the top might live for a few decades on the stakes and a very high quality of life, but then everything will start to fall apart. And how could anybody want that? Don't they know that they are sowing the seeds of their own destruction eventually?
I think that they may know it, but they cannot stop it because the wheels have been put in motion and there are darker forces behind it.
Okay. So can we agree that Trump's not going to be saving us? I think he's an actor. I think he's an actor like everyone else.
Who?
And Trump.
Who?
Trump.
Oh, yeah, he's a complete actor. He's a complete actor.
A lot of people find that uncomfortable to swallow, but it's the truth. I don't trust him.
Oh, yeah, and, he's a complete actor, and elections are a psyop.
Yeah.
Elections are a psyop to give the illusion to people that they live in a free country and that they have a choice on who to elect in order to preserve their freedom.
Exactly. Do you know, I was having a conversation with Matthew Crawford. He does a Substack called Rounding the Earth. He'll be coming on my podcast soon. He told me that Trump was involved in destroying Ross Perot's election campaign. Ross Perot was a true libertarian and he was a threat to the establishment. And they went in and wrecked it. And he was the agent they used. I was like, what? And it just goes to show everything we see is just one big game. Everything's manufactured to make us think that there's a choice between the red and blue team when there is absolutely no choice. It's a uniparty system. I think the problem is a lot of people find that difficult to understand. But listen, Aman, there's some people that will say, including people like Alex Craner and Nick Hudson, that the more you squash down humanity, it's like trying to put a big ball under the water. You need a lot of force to keep it underneath the water. It will always want to bounce up. It will always want to release itself. That's like humanity. You can try and enslave us and keep us down, but it takes so much energy that it just won't work. And all these plans are going to fail. Would you agree with that?
Are they failing?
Right now,
tell
no.
me one aspect of their plan that is failing right now.
I can't tell you any.
They're taking over the water. They've taken over all the electrical companies. They've taken over most of the land in America. They have started doing social credits. They've installed the infrastructure in all major cities and even in rural areas with smart city infrastructure. All the governments have been incorporated. Nothing is being unincorporated. All governments, state level, local and federal level have been taken over by the corporations. So I want to understand, what is anybody's litmus test saying that they cannot win? They're winning on every aspect right now. And I'm not saying there is no way out. I'm not being a defeatist. There is a way out to undo all this.
Great.
That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying, given where we are and where it's going, give me one or two instances where things are going in a reverse fashion, where the person being pushed underwater is popping up. Give me one or two, not 10.
I can't. I mean, if I was to push, I would say that there's an awareness that there wasn't before.
Yeah, but action, awareness is good enough. And and people keep telling me, people are waking up. I said, yeah, but what are they doing about it?
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. So you said you're not a defeatist. So what do we do? How do people fight back against this horrible machinery?
Locally, you can fight back. The number one thing we need to do is to undo the hardware infrastructure of smart cities, because that is the basis for data collection, which will translate into the command and control of the new world order through the new financial system. If the hardware infrastructure is undone, you stop feeding the beast, which is artificial intelligence, and their entire system is crippled instantly.
Anything else?
Oh, there's a lot more to say, but I'll kind of pause there for the night.
Okay.
Starve the beast. I think that should be the new hashtag going around the internet.
So,
Starve the beast.
So one of the things that they've been doing here in the UK in London is they've been taking down the ULEZ cameras.
No,
they've
they
been
haven't. They haven't.
No. Listen. I'm talking about protesters. So look at this picture.
They haven't. I've seen those videos. They're all staged. They're all
Really?
staged. Of
All
course.
the poles being cut and
Of course they're staged. Of course they're staged. So here's my question. If they are taking down the cameras, why are they not taking down the LED lights, which are even more pernicious to the whole infrastructure?
Because maybe they don't know.
It's all staged. It's all staged to give the illusion to the people that, oh, somebody is taking care of business, so I don't have to. I can watch my, football game or soccer game or whatever. It's rubbish.
Okay, Aman, can I ask you something? This is my signature question. I don't know if you've listened to my podcast, but I ask this of all my guests. Imagine you're 150, you've lived a very long life, you're on your deathbed, and you're going to quietly pass on and meet your maker. You're very comfortable, don't worry. What advice would you pass on and words of wisdom to your family that are around you?
I'm 150.
Yeah.
Why do I need to be that old?
Oh, whatever. You've lived a very long life. Don't worry. You've had a good life. Now, what advice are you going to pass on?
I don't know. I think the one thing in 2 words, I would say question everything. Because everything we've been taught from childhood, if not everything, maybe 95% of things we've been taught from childhood is a bloody lie.
Yeah, my friend. I'm with you on that one. Aman, I really appreciate what you've done, staying up late for me and doing this. Thank you so much. And I'll make sure we get all the links and people can find you. Right, my love. What do you want to talk about?
Salmon farming.
Oh, right.
And chicken farming. And cow farming.
Okay. Anything in particular?
Salmon farming.
Yeah, but what in particular about salmon farming? Then?
How bad it is, the lies that they've told us about it, and how it actually endangers us, endangers them, made nearly a load of the, practically most of the nearly extinct animals, probably because of the salmon farming.
What's wrong with salmon farming?
Well, there's a load of things wrong with salmon farming, so I have no idea where to start.
Just start anywhere.
Probably how they endangers endanger other animals, not only themselves.
The other ecosystem? Yeah.
Yep.
Like how?
So they're in like not very big nets, not
Pen.
at all.
Yeah, pens.
Yeah, very like small, cramped pens, and there's dozens of them in them.
No, I think there's thousands and thousands, by the way.
Dozens,
Thousands.
thousands.
In 1 meter, cubed, I think there's like at least 4 or 5 big salmon. So it's a very tight space.
So like thousands, about 70 centimeters, salmons
In a very small space.
in a very, very cramped space. So then, a lot of salmon means a lot of waste, a lot of eating, and a lot of poop.
Mm.
So their poop, unlike what they told us, sinks down and goes into the sea and help fertilize it. No way. It sinks down, doesn't move, stay there, and just gathers around to make this big sludge.
Yeah. Poisonous sludge.
Poisonous sludge. And then they actually die of their own poop.
That's a
Imagine
horrible way to
suffocating
die.
of your own poop.
Oh, no thanks.
And then that attracts lice. Lice that connect onto their scales, eat their skin, eat their muscles, eat their veins, suck on their blood. Yeah, just no thanks.
Not nice.
Not nice at all.
I feel sorry for the salmon as well.
Really sorry.
I mean, salmon. I mean, when I think of salmon, when I was a kid, there was a river in Scotland, that we'd visit, and you'd see the salmon swimming up the river. And these were big, strong, beautiful fish that go out into the sea, have a lovely life, then come back to the river they were born in to lay eggs and die. I mean, it's a beautiful journey. But these salmon in the fish farms, they don't go anywhere.
Not at all.
Kind of cruel.
Really not. And they also take away their freedom, take away their movement. They can barely move. Really barely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then yet again, one of the other lies is saying salmon caught fish is 100% natural. That's a big lie.
Why?
So they collect the salmon eggs, raise them in a hatchery, and then send them back to the wild. And then they actually mess with their DNA, mess with their brains, add stuff into them.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is you don't get the genetic diversity.
Yeah.
So because it's in the hatcheries and it's the same stock of fish, they compete with the natural fish then.
Yeah.
And it dilutes the natural diversity. And instead of salmon stocks going up, it actually does the opposite, it goes down. It's just the usual. You've got natural things, nature. Nature is beautiful, it's in perfect harmony.
Lovely stuff. Harmony, amazing.
And then humans come along and just say, no, we can do it better. And what do you think? When humans think they can do something better than nature, what actually happens?
Nature versus humans. The winning team is humans. Cut down the nature, kill nature, make a big city.
Yeah. And what drives all of this, do you think?
Money. Money, money, money.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, listen, you're wrong. It's all about sustainability and looking after the environment. What do you think of that?
Not at all. So that's actually worse for the environment. All this damming, all of this.
Damming the seas, rivers, lakes.
Damming the seas, trapping them.
Yeah.
It's just cruelty.
Yep. Well, you've explained a lot to me today. Switched on, lady.
So they say on the news, salmons are going up. Salmon farming's helping. Salmon's farming is the best thing that you can do. You to keep salmons in harmony. Whatever, they're lying. It's not true at all.
Yep. I actually don't think it's healthy either.
It's not healthy.
I mean, I don't know. When you go to the supermarket, you can see the salmon that's farmed. It's very light pink. But when you get the wild caught, sockeye, Alaskan, whatever, salmon, like a deep, deep orange.
But the reason why, the question that I have is, how come that the farmed ones is a really pale peachy, while the really natural Alaskan ones are like a deep orange? Why are they different?
I think it depends on what they're eating. So if you imagine the fish that are in those pens, they're going
cereal.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say they're
We're
eating
cereal.
they're eating processed food, pellets. God knows what is in those pellets. What's in the fish food?
But we give pellets to our chickens.
So yeah, so we give a little bit of pellets, grain to them, but we also mix it. Remember, we give them a lot of things like mealworms and leftover food
Seeds,
and leftover food.
their own eggs. That surprisingly is actually very good for them.
Yeah, sweet corn. We give them sweet. We give them like a varied diet. They can eat the insects and they eat the grass. They eat the insects. So it's a bit of everything they have.
They eat flies.
They eat flies.
They try to eat my toes.
Yeah, so I think the salmon that are in the fish farms are eating just processed food, nothing else.
So they don't have a balanced diet.
They don't have. They don't have a natural diet. They don't have a natural diet.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what I said to you before. We are what we eat.
Yep. So if we eat trash, we're trash. If we eat amazing stuff, we are amazing stuff.
Exactly. You've got it.
Yeah.
In a nutshell. So moral of the story: if you can, don't eat farmed fish.
Yeah, and then farmed. Anything that's farmed, not free ranged, just trapped in a little pen, sitting there in the dark, eating non-stop. Try not to get it. If it's the only thing and you're desperate, fine, get it. But really, it's not that good. It's fine if you get it sometimes now and then, because like let's say the good ones are out of stock and you don't know what else to make. It's all right to get it, but really, get the free range. Get the free range.
So I think get regenerative farming. Get local meat. Sustainable means going to your local fishmonger. Your local go find your local
Do we
fish.
have a local fish?
No, I mean like in Cornwall, we go to the fishermen and the market and
Yep.
the fishmonger. Remember, like when we go to Cornwall, when we go to Portugal, whenever we've been on holiday, we go directly to the market where it's freshly caught fish, local, and we get it from there. I think that's one of the best things you can do.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yep. Always get things local.
Yeah, well, as much as you can. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not 100%, but try to.
Try and get like maximum amount local, 50-50. 50% local, 50% not really local.
Let's just say as much as you can.
60-40.
I feel like negotiation here. I just think whatever you can, try and be local. Help
70-30.
out your local providers, your local growers, your local farmers. I think that's the best thing.
80-20.
Right. Okay, let's wrap up. Do you want to say goodbye?
Bye.
Bye, everybody.